Hey guys, it's Cam with Hope to Canine Foundation in the kitchen because we're going to talk about food today and hopefully have no interruptions on the live broadcast. I started to set this up and I got distracted by all of the new ways in which one can go live on Facebook these days, the creator suites and all that jazz, and I like it old school. So Fix It Friday is our Q&A that we try to offer you weekly on Fridays. This week, though, it's going to be a little bit less Q&A per se and more of a data dump PSA that I'm going to share with you so that I can also capture this video, download it, and get it onto our YouTube channel and in our Raising a Rockstar group page. This is really important information that I find myself talking about with almost every single client that crosses our path. Oftentimes we're discussing it well before a dog comes into training because it's applicable to us being able to get great results behaviorally. There's a synergy that should exist between what we feed and put in the body and what we expect comes out the other side as far as behavior and disposition and performance and the dog's ability to really give you their best stuff. So, and then wait just a moment more for folks to come in the room. If you could do me a big favor and just give me an emoji, say hi, let me know that you're there so I can see if my comment section is working today on the desktop version. If it's not, then I'll switch back and forth here so I can follow your comments and questions in mobile while I'm also streaming, okay? I asked my client base, and I want to thank them for following through to send me, they mailed me their pet food labels. So I actually have some really great examples cut out today of ingredient lists to share with you, and some popular brands, in fact, ProPlan Veterinary Diet. We've got some foods that are marketed as natural and holistic. Thanks, Ruth. Let me just pick up what I dropped here. From is a really popular brand. I've got some labels here from Nature's Logic, another from, some Ancient Grains, Taste of the Wild. So this is going to be a really great opportunity for me to roll through a lot of information, certainly not everything that's out there, but a lot of information to get your wheels turning if I have it my way, to inspire you to continue to research and look into this topic beyond our conversation today, and to challenge you to really think about what is loving and serving of your individual dogs, not just convenient and affordable. I saw an internet meme the other day that I thought was genius because it said, stop asking why raw feeding or fresh feeding is so expensive, ask why kibble is so cheap. And I think that really is the perfect way for us to approach the conversation of how do I choose the right food for my dog? At the core of kibble and its creation was about affordability and solving for things like the Great Depression and what do we feed these dogs that really have to be at the bottom of the totem pole in a time of crisis? And what do we do with the leftovers, the bits and bobs, the parts and the things that are discarded in the manufacturing process of food for humans? So if you think about it, it's pretty obvious that some corners will be cut, that we're stretching the dollar and we're stretching the animal byproduct parts, we're stretching the carbohydrates, and we're coming up with creative marketing to make it sound better than it actually is. I am not ever going to be able to recommend that kibble be the base and only thing that you feed for your dogs, okay? I'm always going to tell our clients, our adopters, our folks that are reaching out in crisis because their dog has health issues, their dog has behavior issues, I'm always going to recommend that you take a look at what you're feeding your pet and you treat these issues from the inside out, that you understand the very fundamentals of cellular health and immune health, and that you're respectful of the fact that many of our dogs and cats, but we're speaking about dogs here, many of our dogs are in the red. And I say that to represent the fact that they're over-vaccinated too early in life, and then they don't get appropriate nutrition to support or compensate for that. And now we're chasing a lot of times the resulting systemic issues, behavioral issues that are a consequence of that, right? The gut feels tense or stressy and uncomfortable, the dog gets giardia and is treated with metronidazole. It wipes out the gut biome, all the good bacteria that should be there to support that dog feeling calm and comfortable in the gut is eradicated. And then if we're not aware of that and we don't think appropriately about respecting how the system works in that regard, we don't put back into it to get it out of that hole. That's what I'm talking about when I say the dog's already in the red. Okay, and this is really common in rescue dogs because if they got picked up on the street as a stray or surrendered without veterinary documents, they get pumped full of vaccines, every vaccine all at once. Oftentimes they're given a dewormer, they're given a heartworm, they're given a flea chemical preventative. They're stressed to the max because they're in an environment that is not familiar and not comfortable and not calm for them. The shelter system is just what it is, right? And then we pass them on to a new family. They lunge, bark, or bite someone, and they get returned or bounced around again. This is the system that I live in with this career. It's so frustrating, okay? It's so frustrating. So if you are a person who has adopted a dog, wants to adopt a dog, you absolutely need to be thinking about this stuff as having been out of your control and very likely set in motion before you ever inherited the dog to give you, on top of whatever their behavioral or emotional trauma might be, to give you this aspect of their health that you also need to rehabilitate, okay? Detox that dog. Get that dog connected with a veterinarian who specializes in holistic health support so we can get some homeopathy or some naturopathic remedies on board to detox that animal of abundant virus. When they have been over-vaccinated, they will have excessive virus in the system that they're battling to get rid of that will often cause inflammation. So maybe you've got an itchy, hot, allergy-prone dog. If you adopted that dog and that dog had a lot of vaccines and all the things that you're supposed to do, that could be why, okay? So don't go to the prescription diet, which is so often what happens. Don't change to a hydrolyzed kibble, which has nothing good left in it. The goal of that diet is to just not do anything to the body so the body can calm down, but it's certainly not helping you get out of the red, okay? It's certainly not helping us detox and make up for all those insults and injuries to the immune system that that dog has sustained. Now, another fundamental thing I need to tell you is I'm not a veterinarian, okay? And you're just gonna have to take what I'm telling you with a grain of salt and do your own research. In addition to that, every dog is different. I'll put my labels down here for a moment and I'll show you the picture I posted earlier because I think this is really cool to look at. Every dog is different, okay? This morning I posted in preparation for our live stream, right? 3 yummy, fabulous food bowls. Doesn't that look good? Looks like people food, okay? I sent this to my sweetie today who's sick in bed and I said, man, the kids really eat well. And he goes, that looks better than anything I've eaten in a really long time. And I think for a lot of you, this would be true, which is terrible. We got to change that, guys. It's not acceptable, especially not in a time where we have so many superbugs going around. Our immune systems have been avoidant of building by getting germ exchanges. The superbugs are superbugging because everything is being alcoholed to death, right? And antibacterial everything. And so we really need to be conscientious that there's a time coming down the line where we're going to see some big fallout from that. We're going to have a lot of consequences to not having healthy bacteria in our life. And this is something we need to think about when it comes to dog diets, okay? Thank you for saying hello and letting me know you guys are here. I really appreciate that. It's no fun to talk to one's self. Well, I don't know, maybe for some of you it is. So in the picture that I showed you, I had 3 separate dogs, 3 individual dogs on 3 separate comparable diets, okay? Based on my belief in research and finding throughout the years, which is that just like people, fresh is best, okay? People don't do well, especially not long term, on frozen and preserved food. Challenge me. Right? Challenge me. They just don't, okay? Are there those exceptions to the rule in the human world where we know that Uncle Bob smoked for 70 years, drank, like crazy, and lived to 101? Yes, that happens sometimes. And it happens with dogs. You can put your dog on Alpo or Beneful, which is going to come up later, and they could live to 18 years old, and you could not really ever know that that dog is, Twinkie preserved on the inside. They seem absolutely fine. If you look deep enough, though, in both cases, Uncle Bob probably had gnarly skin and odor and bad teeth and maybe gut pain or gut rot and avoided certain foods because if he started to eat healthy, it actually made him feel like crap. The dog is the same. Your Alpo or Beneful dog is going to usually have stinky, greasy skin, yeasty ears, itchy skin maybe. Their weight might be questionable. The owner may think the dog looks fine because that's the frame of mind they're in with their feeding protocols, but the dog's probably overweight. It may have inflammation issues, arthritis for many years. There may be lots of things like that going on that when you really look, okay, it's not a healthy dog. So we can go and swing extremes, and this is important to remember as well. This is not about you got to freak out and learn how to feed your dog raw or do only home cooked meals, and then you freak out because it seems too expensive and the budget can't afford it or our time is not conducive to following through on something like this with a 120-pound Mastiff or you travel, your lifestyle makes it complicated for you, you think, to be able to do fresh or raw food. It's about finding the balance that works for that individual dog and your individual lifestyle, okay? We'll come back to this synergy idea. Work together, create a better outcome than if we only did one thing or we only approached it one way, okay? Now, let's get to the nitty-gritty of some of this nutrition stuff that I want you to know about kibble specifically, so that you can be more empowered and informed to understand why it's cheaper, why it's so convenient, and why it has so many consequences and so much interest collected on the insults it causes to the body over time. Going back to what I told you in the beginning, if the origin of this food is similar to that of frozen and high preservative content foods for people, cheap, fast, easy, it's not about what is optimally healthy for your animal, okay? Kibble is inherently incomplete. Repeat that after me, please. Kibble is inherently incomplete. It's okay if you need to feed kibble as part of your dog's diet. A lot of people do. In some cases, that is what is more digestible to the animal because there's less to it. Then we need to ask the question, why? What is at the core of my dog's state of health that they're struggling to digest good bacterias, higher contents of protein, homemade or raw or fresh foods? We need to take a look at that because it's telling us something about the gut biome. The same way we look at Uncle Bob, if he eats a salad after all these years of being preserved in all of that nasty, frozen, disgusting, gluten-rich foods, okay? What's going on there that we are detoxing potentially that's causing loose stools or gassiness or even vomiting and some other issues when we know we're giving him something that's supposed to be better, okay? This is oftentimes, hey Mindy, a really great way. Appreciate you guys commenting, letting me know you're here. Thanks, Stephanie. Glad this is helpful. Okay, we got to really learn to question, why is this not settling well when we know it is better for us? We know that people do better on fresh and whole ingredients. Salad is better for you than Hot Pockets, okay? This is just science and fact, all right? So let's get down to that, accountability that we really need to have when we look at our dogs do better on fresh or raw food. It's what is species appropriate. We've domesticated them, yes. So many of them do not have the digestive system and the overall immune health to naturally go into eating whole prey diet, okay? When I first started out in dogs 20 years ago, my very first boxer had a lot of health issues. And what we discovered really early on was that picture that's similar to the one I painted for you earlier in the rescue scenario. He was untreated for parasites and Giardia issues systemically. He was highly stressed because he wasn't fulfilled. He was cooped up. He didn't get enough activity and outlet. He had a heart murmur already at 9 months that was pretty severe. The vet told us at that time, if you were bringing me a puppy, I would tell you to return it because this should not be this way in a 8-9-month-old dog. He had lots and lots of problems with urinary incontinence and chronic diarrhea and different things, so weight gain, stuff like that. Kind of looking like Bobby the boxer that we have in our rescue program right now. So this is what got me interested in dog nutrition and learning through friends and eventually colleagues about raw feeding. Raw feeding saved that dog's life. I'm confident of that. It gave me almost 9 years with him, which is pretty incredible. Never had to go on medication for his heart. We never had to do dental work with him. Raw feeding was about being able to get natural oral health, ripping, tearing, chewing of whole animal parts to prevent gingivitis, which is connected to the bloodstream. Many of our dogs get sick because of their dental health or lack of it based on eating only kibble and not getting the benefit of what would be very natural, primal, and instinctual for them to have a whole animal part, okay? Go out, catch a rabbit, rip, tear, chew, roll it around in the dirt, get the bacteria, the grass, the different things, get what that animal was eating from their organs and their body, and then you have this beautiful, circle of life thing happening where your dog is more satisfied because we're not overdoing it on carbs. We're getting that high protein content. We're getting a balance of bone and organs and minerals and all that good stuff, okay? So years ago, I learned this with that dog, and I've continued to apply it as I've moved through many other dogs that were personal or within the training and rescue work that I do. Not every single one of them responded as well to raw as that dog. The majority do, some don't. My current dog, fast forward, doesn't tolerate it. So this is where we have to think about the individual dog. And when you say to me, Cam, I can't afford to do raw, I have 5 dogs. That's your choice. That's your choice to have so many dogs and then to go into that space of priorities and say, I can't afford that because I have so many dogs. Well, do you want lots of dogs that you treat okay, or do you want less dogs that you take care of really well? That's one way that we can counter that question, right? Or do you want to give up on something that works really brilliantly to support your dog's overall health that's more species appropriate and aligned? Throw the baby out with the bathwater, if you will, or just do the best you can. Because there's zero judgment for doing the best you can, all right? Make small steps towards that better result, and you'll at least be doing what you can with what you have based on who you're dealing with right now, okay? I don't think it's cool to say, I have too many dogs or I don't have enough time, and then not think about this topic and make a conscious prioritization of doing the best you can. That's my challenge for you today. So I have 3 dogs right now this morning that I showed you pictures of their meals. One eats raw, kibble, and cooked, depending on what I feel like. She has an iron gut. She loves everything. She was started out eating that way as a brand new puppy, weaning off of her mama. And so she's flexible, right? Her system can handle whatever I want to throw at her. Primarily, she's on raw, but I can give her kibble and fresh foods when it suits me and it's convenient to me, or if I just don't want to go thaw the food and deal with that mess, or if I don't want to spend that much money, whatever your way of looking at that is, okay? Hey, Joe and Gotti. I have another dog who's on a cooked diet, all right, my boxer. So after 2.5 years of issues, always, he's had dietary issues and challenges. Raw did not work for him. Kibble did not work for him because it caused a lot of the similar symptoms that other dogs I see where they get yeasty, allergy, ear infections, all kinds of problems. He had an ear infection so badly from being on kibble, it landed us in the ER, thinking that he had a foxtail, okay? So we swung the spectrum with this dog, experimenting on what was going on because we really had a lot of struggles with him. Now today he's on a fully cooked food program because after allergy testing and all the things that we did, he's very limited on the proteins that he can have, and that's the easiest thing for him to digest, where he would eat consistently, happily, and be very motivated for his food. His coat looks so much better. We don't get the ear infections. The oral health is improving. Lots of good stuff going on there. That's a commitment on my part to cooking a crock pot of food every 1 to 2 weeks, guys. I source my ground meat from local supermarkets, cheap as I can, under $3 a pound. We use barley for the grain because of what that is in terms of sugar and a potential, less potential for irritation to the skin and digestibility. And we'll talk about barley in a little bit here. And then I can add other fresh fruits, veggies, sweet potatoes sometimes. This morning in the bowl, avocado is another thing that he gets. He had some salmon patty in there this morning, cooked. What else did I give him? Some blueberries mashed up, and then some salmon oil, okay? And then the third bowl, I'm glad, Joseph, that's awesome, I'm glad. We're gonna talk about some of these specific labels that my client base sent, so hang in with me here, guys. And then the third bowl was for the Frenchie puppy, who doesn't tolerate certain foods just yet that we're kind of experimenting with. He's working his digestive health up to being flexible to pretty much whatever. But because of his overall state of health, and this is very common with the breed, again, guys, your bully breed dogs, man, they tend to be really sensitive and finicky. He is on kibble and fresh. And that fresh food is consistently a supplementation of a meatball, tuna meatball, turkey meatball. Today it was some sweet potato in his bowl. It was an enzyme supplement, soft-boiled egg, a 6-minute egg. It's like your ramen egg, okay? There's a great video that Rodney Habib and Karen Becker put out about how to feed eggs, the incredible egg for dogs, and the way to get optimal nutrition and digestibility out of an egg. You can feed it raw, you can feed it, scrambled, you can do lots of different things, but the optimal way to get the most nutrition and digestibility out of the egg is soft-boiled, okay? So that means that yolk gets cooked just a skosh and the white gets fully cooked, and that was in the bowl for the Frenchie today too, and then a little bit of that salmon patty as well. Now, one thing that I want to tell you guys is before I get into the label reading, with fresh ingredients, dogs do not contain the same digestive enzymes we do. They're different. Now, that is why they can handle the bacteria risk of raw food, because food doesn't stay in their digestive tract nearly as long as it stays in ours. They're not as susceptible to salmonella and some of these other things like we are, E. coli. But they also lack certain enzymes to break down raw ingredients like broccoli and carrots and peas and some of the things that you guys are commenting and telling me that you add into your dog's food. So you want to always mince, steam, or chop your veggies and fruits that you're adding to your dog's bowl. A really simple way to do this in bulk is a food processor or a blender. You can put cucumber, you can put asparagus, you can put apple, blueberries, you can put your broccoli, you can put all these things that you're describing to me that you eat yourself, I hope, into that food processor or blender. Give it a whir with bone broth or coconut water. Could be plain water, but you can get some benefit out of, goat milk. You can do goat kefir. You can do plain goat yogurt. These would be great ways to get a puree or mash that you just take a heaping tablespoon out for the average dog and add to their kibble bowl, along with a soft-boiled egg or sardines once a week that have come from a can with water, not oil. And now we'll be adding in a lot of the things that are missing and deficient and insufficient in kibble as we're going to go through these labels together, okay? And some of the tricks that you need to understand. So if you're adding veggies to your dog's meal already, fantastic. Do me a favor though and help your dog's system out by mincing, steaming, or pureeing those supplements, okay? With kibble specifically, it's generally just not high enough in protein. It's too high in carbohydrates. It's too high in sugars. And these are why we see a consistent result of dogs on a kibble-based diet with no supplementation or digestive and probiotic support, rampant with allergies, yeasty ears, stinky, smelly skin, itchy, sensitive to even just environmental seasonal allergies. More common, you guys. It's just more common in these poor dogs that are on a kibble-only diet. I'm worried about my battery here, so I might ask you to hang tight for just a second while I plug me in. Darn it, I wasn't expecting that. Okay. Luna loves her sardines. Yes, they're great. It's a great thing to supplement. You can overdo it though, so don't go crazy. I've got some people who show up and bring me sardines that they're feeding every day. That's a little excessive. I would say once or twice a week, okay? Let me get my charger, guys. Hold on. This is going to be worth it. Of course I did that to myself. All right, here we go. Let's plug in. This is too important. We don't want to run into an issue here, do we? All right. So we talked about what to do with those fresh ingredients, right? Mince, steam, puree, roast, whatever it is. I want you to get those things slightly broken down for your dog, okay? The other big thing that's missing from kibble is, as I've mentioned, bacteria, probiotics, okay? Our dogs in their natural state would have followed early man around eating our stool and getting some bacteria. It's nasty, I know, eating the stool of other animals and really building up their gut health because of this diverse bacteria in the gut biome, in the microbiome. There's so much information coming out about microbiome, both humans and animals. Understanding that for your dog and for yourself is something I highly recommend. Search it. It's all over online now. You can get a ton of great information from the folks over at Planet Paws. Lots of holistic and naturopathic veterinarians are speaking to this. Dr. Margot gets interviewed a lot by my colleague Peter Chincarelli. There's a lot of information for you about this in both ends of the leash and how you need to understand the power of the microbiome on your mental health, your emotional and nervous system health, and also just weight management, weight loss. You know, a lot of information here about how that affects our energy, the clarity of our brain function, and so forth. Same is true for dogs, okay? Now, let's talk about reading some labels here, and I want to get you quickly downloaded with the big things that you need to know, okay, besides everything I already told you. When you read a kibble ingredient list, let me pull my notes up here so I don't forget anything important. The ingredients, and for my clients who recognize their labels that they sent in, this is not about bashing or shaming or blaming, okay? If I start talking about something being a problem, don't feel bad. This is just going to be really good examples, and we'll use a calculator here too for sugar content in a moment. All right, you guys are going to enjoy this, I think. It's going to be helpful. When you go to the pet food store, because you want to have kibble as part of your dog's diet, especially if it's the base of your dog's diet, please look for something worth spending more money on. Remember what I told you at the top of the broadcast. Stop asking why it's so expensive to feed fresh or raw food and ask why it's so cheap to buy kibble, okay? And then you try and eat, you know, McDonald's every day. There's a video about this, if you all saw it. You try to eat McDonald's every day and see how that works for you after 5 years. Okay. Ingredients on your dog food label are listed in the order of significance, okay, how they're represented, just like people food. They're also listed, though, before cooking. So it's extremely important to understand that dry ingredients take over the ratio as the protein's moisture is lost, okay? So if we've got duck, this label here says duck meal, lentils, chickpeas. This is before cooking, and there's a lot of water in duck. There's a lot of moisture in chicken and turkey. There's a lot of moisture in the protein. When you cook it, those dry ingredients of lentils, think about, have you ever made a lentil soup? Give me an emoji here if you've cooked with these ingredients, okay? How specific do I need to get? Will be helpful for me to know. If you've ever cooked with a lentil, you know it's very easy to put too many in your recipe, in your soup or whatever. They soak up all the water and they take over, all right? So the percentage of that carbohydrate's presence becomes much more significant then how you're going to interpret this as duck is the first ingredient, okay? This is why it's so important. I think this one didn't provide me with the percentages, like so this is a different food. See how there's percentages? We're going to talk about you add these percentages together and do a little math equation to find out the sugar content. And that's when you really get information about what's in the bag, what's primary in the bag, okay? But I don't have the list for this one. Maybe we'll do it off of something else. Okay, bear with me. So the first, second, and third ingredient should be all meat. That's ultimately what you need to know. I hope you guys are taking notes. First, second, and third ingredient should all be meat. This is duck meal, and lentil. Not a meat for the third ingredient, okay? Now, the salt divide we're going to talk about in a minute. I'm going to come back to that one and to calculation of sugar. Meal after protein, this is really important, is tissue or bone, not meat. So again, we have duck meal, not meat, okay? It's tissue, bone, not meat. Byproduct meal, I wrote my notes over here. No actual meat when you see byproduct meal. This is really important, guys, okay? Because I got a lot of those labels over here that have byproduct meal. And there's brain, there's bone, there's organ, there's, man, I can't even read my own notes, guys. Waste. Thank you, Cameron. Write more clearly. It's not actual meat, okay? This one's going to throw you guys into a tizzy. Just wait till I read that one to you. Oh my God. All right, so here, first three ingredients: deboned turkey, potatoes, peas, potato flour. Three ingredients, only one of them is deboned meat, turkey meat, okay? Let's do another one. Rabbit meal, turkey meal, millet. There's no actual meat. Can you believe that? Meal is tissue and bone. It's not actual meat, okay? This is really important. That was nature's logic, by the way, guys. Okay? Salmon, ancient grains, taste of the wild. Salmon, salmon meal, and ocean fish meal. This is the garbage parts. You got it? You follow me now? So there's some salmon in here, and then there's some garbage parts of these fish, and then grain, sorghum, millet, cracked barley, lots of carbs coming in here. And a lot of times the manufacturer will split up the grains to hide them within the label, and there's more than it looks like when you read the first section of the ingredients, okay? This is also really important to know. Here's another one. Chicken, chicken broth, chicken meal, oat groats. Remember, the first three ingredients should be meat, okay? Should be protein, not byproduct, not meal, not the grain or the carbohydrates component. So this is chicken, but then it's chicken broth and chicken meal, not actual meat. Those are the other two ingredients, the top of this list. You guys following me here? Is this helpful? I hope so. Again, I thank my clients for getting me these. Chicken, chicken meal, chicken broth, oat groats. This must be the from. This goes with this one. Okay. Let's go now to talk about, brain and spleen also can be in the byproduct meal. It could include organs like that. Another thing to look at here, the big one, the salt divide, okay? Most of you have been around for a while, should know about this. Otherwise, shame on me for not talking about it enough, but I want to make sure we get it in today. The salt divide or the salt rule on your dog's pet food label is describing a percentage of ingredients that are represented at less than 1% in the entire bag. So when you go look at your dog food bag today, I want you to read down the list and find salt on the ingredient list. Here's duck meal, lentils, chickpeas, peas, pea flour, dried yeast, chicken fat, preserved with tocopherols, flaxseed, tomato pomace, natural flavor, salmon oil, salt. Okay, find salt. Everything after that, I'm going to cover what's before that. Okay, everything after that, here's salt. Okay, all that, you guys see all that stuff below salt, right? Right there. There's salt. Everything that comes after that is less than 1% in the entire bag. So if your beautiful dog food bag has a brilliant marketing ploy of blueberries and salmon and sweet potatoes and eggs and chicken and all this yummy stuff on it, but you flip it over and everything after salt, hickory root, yucca, lactobacillus, which is a probiotic, dried bacillus, fermentation product, acidophilus, more animal fermentation, vitamin E, iron, zinc, copper, more salt, manganese, vitamin A, biotin, niacin, calcium, vitamin D3 supplement, folic acid, vitamin B12. Those all sound important, right? There's less than 1% in the entire bag. So if blueberry comes after that, and it often does, let's look here. Let me find you guys another example. Here we go. This one, okay, I read all these great things: potato, flaxseed, salmon, alfalfa meal, salt. And then we have calcium, potassium, hickory root extract, vitamins A, D3, E, B12, niacin, calcium, riboflavin, thiamine, folic acid, minerals, zinc, sulfate. These are all less than 1% in the bag. Okay? So if your fruits and veggies, if some of your herbs and minerals and things are coming after that salt divide, there might be a blueberry in the bag, ladies and gentlemen. A blueberry. Chicken broth, chicken meal, oat groats, barley, sweet potato, brown rice, white rice, dried egg product, and fish meal, whole oats, chicken fat, preservatives, dried tomato, salmon, whole barley, millet, cheese, flaxseed, potato, chicken liver, carrot, apple, broccoli, celery, salt. Okay? After the salt is monosodium phosphate, more salt, potassium chloride, that hickory root extract everybody likes to use, vitamins, A, D3, E, B12, all right? And on it goes with zinc and chicken cartilage and cranberries. I bet you cranberries are on the front of the bag. I bet you. Okay, I don't have the benefit of that, but somebody with from, chicken, something veg, look at the front of the bag and look at the deception of the marketing of what it's telling you you're feeding versus what's actually in here, okay? Because these things that come after the salt divide are in the bag at less than 1%. This is Purina Pro Plan. Ground corn, soybean meal, soybean germ meal, soybean hull, soy flour, corn gluten meal, poultry byproduct meal, pea fiber, natural flavor, powdered cellulose, beef fat preserved with mixed tocopherols, glycerin chicken, phosphate, malted barley flour, then salt. Boy, this is bad stuff, guys. Okay, corn is really hard for dogs to digest, and it's often full of GMOs. So that's really something you want to see as a red flag if its presence in the bag is this high. It is literally the first ingredient on the list. I would stop feeding this food immediately, and it's called overweight management, chicken flavor. Chicken flavor. Ugh. After salt, guys, all the things that are less than 1%, the lysine, more salt, calcium, zinc, vitamin E, carnitine, ferrous sulfate, sulfur, niacin, vitamin B3, and vitamin A, copper proteinate, soybean oil. Soy is very hard for dogs to digest. Same with people. Avoid it, okay? It's not real food. Vitamin B12, riboflavin, vitamin B7, vitamin D, all these things that we think, garlic, oil, okay, but there's hardly any in the bag. Your dog is eating corn. Your dog is eating a corn diet, okay? So, learn about the salt divide. Find salt on the bag. There are kibbles that are out there that have a hearty amount of real protein. They are low and healthy carbs, and they do not even have salt listed at all, let alone it's very far down on the list. You need to learn to look at prioritizing those dog foods, if you're going to feed kibble, that have respect for a lot of these manufacturing ploys that have historically represented good, cheap, accessible dog food, and you need to stop buying that crap and purchase the stuff that is made locally in the USA that has real ingredients in it, and it's going to cost you probably at least double. Why would you not want to do that though if it means you're not poisoning your dog and you could potentially get a dog that lives longer and healthier and has fewer issues and complications from not being fed optimally, right? There are a lot of different names for salt, guys, and they're not always straightforward and honest on the dog food label to say SALT. Get on Google and research what else is salt. What are other names for that sodium to be present in the food label? It's very simple to find out on the internet these days, all right? Disodium phosphate, etc. Animal fat is added to the outside of kibble to make it more appealing, and there are definitely some things that can be present, fats specifically utilized, that are not healthy for our pets, that are part of this process of making kibble more appealing or even addictive to our dogs. This is another thing that I want you to realize. High carb is high sugar, and it's very addicting. It's why dogs often become super jacked up about their food instead of satisfied and happy to eat and then calm after they eat. Many of my clients will say after they feed their dog is just psycho. A lot of energy, running around, going crazy. Our dogs do need some carbs, but when we're feeding cereal for breakfast, sugar cereal for breakfast, for example, and we're expecting our kids to sit still and be able to focus and pay attention in school, that's very counterproductive. The same is true for our dogs. Let's talk about preservatives for a minute. A few of my notes and things that I'm aware of with regard to preservatives. Again, this is unnatural for us. In our natural, healthy, species-appropriate eating, it would be fresh, real, whole ingredients. When you start adding preservatives, you are adding chemicals into your diet. Some of them are carcinogenic and cancer-causing. Specifically, BHA and BHT, cancer-causing and carcinogenic. Propylene glycol is literally a form of automobile antifreeze that can be present as a preservative in dog foods. At one time, Beneful had a huge recall because they were using propylene glycol as a preservative in their foods and making dogs sick. So you need to be really careful about these preservatives. And part of being careful about them is avoiding them and then not overbuying your quantity of dog food and storing it inappropriately. Kibble, when you open the bag, the oils in the kibble begin to age and become rancid, often spoiling before you get to the bottom of the bag. If you dump that food into a plastic rolling bin and use a scooper to get it out, like so many dog owners do, you're also leaching the plastics into the food in most cases, unless you've chosen a bin that has, BPA-free plastic. And you're going through that food in a very, very speedy manner, right? Maybe you have 5 Mastiffs like my friend, and you're going through the food really quickly, so you're not as susceptible to having these issues of compromising the kibble in that way and or spoiling it, but it's extremely unlikely. More often than not, we buy a lot in bulk. We love our Costco, we love our Sam's Club. We buy a lot of food in bulk, we dump it in the bin, or we drop it in the bin, we leave it open, we don't seal it carefully enough. Now, even more of that good stuff that we think is in the food when we first purchase it, as far as the oils and the omegas that the dog needs, are not actually working the way that we thought they did because that food is spoiling, okay? So learn to pay attention for those preservatives and recognize is another huge reason why it is not my #1 choice for what we feed dogs, okay? Sodium nitrate is another cancer-causing ingredient you need to watch out for. Soy, as I mentioned, and corn are very hard to digest, but oftentimes it's the GMOs on top of everything else that are hugely compromising to your dog's immune system and their gut health specifically. We know that Roundup, weed killer, is really prevalent in breaking down the gut microbiome. And it's why organic took off. It's why we have so many organic products promoted for humans to consume now, because of how much data we've acquired that says eating that Roundup chemical is extremely deadly and problematic for folks that are already immunocompromised, who are, have autoimmune diseases. We have a high prevalence of autoimmune diseases, especially in women. We need to watch out for these things in how we eat and how we feed our dogs, okay? If corn is a high thing on the list, as I mentioned, avoid it. Avoid it. Run far, far away. I was going to look at one more of these labels for you in conjunction with calculating your sugar, okay? So write this one down, guys. When you look at your bag, to calculate the sugar content, and I didn't know this until recently, to be honest. This was not on my radar as well. But it matters, especially if you have an itchy, allergy-prone dog with lots of yeast problems, their ears are nasty, things like that. Sugar is calculated based on adding protein, fat, moisture, and ash. Now, ash is something that's not always transparent on your labels, okay? Let me see where I have a good one to go off of. So protein, fat, moisture, there's 9% here, and ash. If ash is not listed, you want to just assume it's 6%, okay? So where's my calculator I had out for us here? This one is the Nature's Logic. Protein percentage is 36. The fat percentage is 15. Moisture is 9. And then do we have ash on here? Bear with me. Not always transparent. So we add for 6%. That's 147 total. Now we subtract 100. We have 47% sugar. That's pretty high. Okay, let's do another one. So that was the Nature's Logic. Make a note here. You guys still with me? Nature's Logic, 47% sugar. And then I'm going to tell you some alternatives with my last few minutes available, okay, of how I supplement kibble or feed a convenient, quick diet option that's not kibble, okay? All right, here's our Taste of the Wild, guys. So this is where I'm going right here, crude analysis. You got it? Percentages, okay? So I'm going to take the percentages here of my protein, which is 30, my fat, which is 15, moisture, which is 10, and then I'm looking for ash here, and if it's not present, it'll be 6%. 6. Hold on. 30, 15, moisture was 10, 6. What am I missing here? Protein, fat, moisture, ash. Right? 30, 15, 61. This one's low sugar, okay? So protein, fat, moisture, ash, minus 100. Then we have our sugar percentage. And this one is much, much lower. 0.4. Right? Sorry, I'm calculating as I'm talking. Why is the protein contributing to sugar? It has to do with the combination of those things together. And that is not a scientific answer I know to provide. I just know how you do that math. Okay? Protein, fat, moisture, and ash. And this is something that I like I said, I only have just started having a familiarity around because of our local holistic vet that I work with at Animal Healing Center. And I had a great food, kibble food, that was protein, all this great stuff. You know, it looked really good with the salt divide, being critical of it and everything. But then when you actually did this math for the sugar content, it was pretty high. And I had a dog resulting with a lot of skin issues. So it made sense. But how that is deduced, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Full transparency. I don't know. But that's the calculation that I've seen on a few different occasions from my trained veterinarian. I know Rodney and Karen talk about this as well. And there are also a couple of other nutrition-centric YouTube channels where there's more dialogue around the math. If we dig into, let's see here, bear with me. We dig into the nutritional analysis, and I think that part of it is the carbohydrate content, actually. Protein, fat, fiber, and moisture, and actually getting your carbohydrate percentages, your sugar percentage. Does that make sense? That's the relationship, is your carbs, therefore your sugar. But that's something we'll have to have a follow-up conversation about, because I can't answer that, technically. I am not knowledgeable about that. What I do know is that this is something that you want to pay attention to, because it can look really great on the label, but then when you actually start to pay attention to salt divide and you think you've got a lot of protein, but you also have a lot of moisture, a lot of fat, a lot of things in there that may be out of balance, you end up with this sugar content that's really high as well, which is not going to be as significant as when you're feeding a species, a primal diet, right? Where it's more parts, meat and bone, organ supplementation, fresh foods, not your rice, your corn, your soy, your millet, your, excessive barley, what are the other, chickpeas, peas, pea flour. I sure wish I had the data for this one as far as the, I'm actually adding the fiber here too. Moisture's 12% on this food. Yeah, I wish I had the label for that one. That would be good to see. This one actually lists ash. You see that there? Purina Pro Plan. So they're at least clear, even though this is terrible food. Terrible food. Protein, fat, and two different fats here. Moisture's 12, ash is 8.5%. Pretty crazy. Man, this Pro Plan, guys. Blah. No, thank you. All right, I'm running out of time. I want to talk to you really quickly. I hope this is helpful, guys. Like I said, I gave you my disclaimer. I'm not a vet. I am not representing a food company. What I know is from 20 years of struggling through sick dogs and dogs that, have malabsorption issues, have gut biome issues, dogs that don't look good, dogs that don't feel good, dogs that don't put the right amount of weight on, dogs that put too much weight on. And what I know for sure is that no two bodies are identical. It's why I used that picture this morning to show you, of three very different meals, right? Three very different bowls, comprising, what is working for three different dogs here: cooked, raw, and kibble. Each of them are getting fresh foods, minced, steamed, pureed, right? The soft boiled egg, the sardines, the digestive enzymes, salmon oil, the things that are most significantly too low in your kibble: protein, omega fatty acids, vitamins and minerals, because they're often sprayed on, added at the end to get you that fat and that flavor that the dog's attracted to. But now it's spoiling because the bag's open too long or the storage isn't done correctly, and it's just simply not enough, right? Kibble is incomplete. You're not meant to have a highly cooked, preserved food every day, forever, the same thing. It's not what the body is designed to do. So, getting those fresh foods added in, or even dehydrated meats. I love real meat. I love Ziwi Peak, Ziwi, Ziwi Peak, and real meat. These are great dehydrated foods that you can order as something to supplement or as a training tool to use to feed your dog if you are a raw feeder otherwise and you don't want to hand feed raw for training. I highly recommend that you get, some of these dehydrated meats: lamb lung, liver, dehydrated, liver cubes are really awesome and fantastic. Why am I blanking on the name? These are great things to be contributed to a bowl that has variety, if kibble is the base, okay? And then you also can do a simple thing of a crock pot of food. Now I do that for my dog's base meal. One is his, okay. Yes, I have, Carmen. I've seen it. And you can post that comment. She's just messaging me. You can post that comment here. People should watch it. It's been a while, though. I forgot about it. Pet fooled. So, you can make a crock pot of cooked food, guys, right? Ground meat, veggies, sweet potatoes, throw some carrots in there, a mush. A lot of my clients will say, I make a mush for my dog, and then I add that to the kibble. Great. That's an easy way to cook once or twice a month. Freeze it in batches and just pull out a container in your fridge and have something to add to the food that is real, that is fresh, that is going to add more protein to the dog's diet. You know the source of it. It doesn't have preservatives. It doesn't have chemicals. It doesn't have fillers. It doesn't have some of these things that are really compromising to our dog's gut. Get a probiotic on board. That is something that is enormously important. If you do one thing, get a probiotic or digestive enzymes added to your dog's kibble-based diet, because it's not there for them otherwise. When you feed raw, when you allow your dog to have access hunting and, consuming whole parts, whether they're something that you got for them and brought home, from frozen and thawed, get them that probiotic, the digestive enzyme support to help give them more of that natural bacterial balance that they're lacking. It's going to pay off in spades. I guarantee it. And then there are just so many other things that are really easy to get a hold of, and at least in 2 to 3 days a week, add to the bowl to start building that immune health back up for these dogs that have been in the red. They're over vaccinated. They need supplementation to detox. They need support immunologically to come back from that. And it's not that difficult to do, okay? My hope is that at a minimum, you're thinking more critically about kibble after this conversation. You won't necessarily feel fantastic about, any kibble when you really start to dig into the nitty-gritty of how these work and looking for something to recommend. Clients ask me all the time. The best I can do is say I don't recommend it as a solo diet. I think it has to be supplemented. I think it has to be taken into consideration that it's incomplete no matter which one you do. And all you can do is your best effort to have a critical eye about salt being low or absent on that list, having protein be the first 3 ingredients, having a locally sourced product, meaning it's not coming from China, it's USA manufactured, so the meal that they're getting, the meat that they're getting is local, and that you really avoid those things like corn and soy and wheat that are not natural for our dogs to be consuming and that are hard on the system, especially over a sustained period of time. Add in what you can. If you're cooking for yourself and you're eating the way that you should, healthy, fresh vegetables and fruits and good free, grass-fed meats, you can just slide some of that right over in the bowl and share it with your dog. You can also get some of those things I mentioned that are easy to throw in the pantry, like sardines and water. A container of plain goat yogurt from Trader Joe's or your local grocer like Sprouts. A little scoop of that is going to be a probiotic benefit to your dog. Pet Fooled is a great video that Carmen just commented. Learn about the industry and some of the information that is readily available to you if you go looking as to why it's cheap and convenient, and start criticizing that and questioning that. This raw feeding thing is not coming from nowhere. We're not a crazy breed of person that's trying to complicate our lives and spend too much money or time on our dog's diets. It's rooted in solid information and evidence about what is natural and species appropriate, but we do have to take each individual dog into consideration, and not all of them do best on the same protocols. They need to be treated as individuals, all right? I am starting to need a drink of water, so I'm going to cut it off here. Happy to come back and discuss digestive enzymes. What are you using? I've got a few options for you. Let me grab one that I can physically show you. It's VetRx, I believe. Of course, the dang label is over it. Grr. Let's see if I can get the label off of this for you. Nope. It's called RX Zyme. And this is, there's a couple different products from RX Zyme. So it's a blue and white container. It has a blend. So they do not only enzyme blend, they do a probiotic blend. There's a few different versions that they carry. RX vitamins, and this is RX Zyme, Z-Y-M-E, okay, powder, enzyme formula. The others would be Nature's Pharmacy, which I think is still a great company, Pharmacy, Nature's Pharmacy. They have Coastal Carbohydrates by Difference. Thank you. Thank you, Wendy. You're going to be the voice of logic and education and science here. And guys, I don't know everything. So please, if you have data and you want to chime in, go for it. This is a free show. I'm not getting paid for this. So it's a free show. I don't care. Go ahead. Drop your information in there. We are a powerful community. And you are, a lot of you, even more educated in some areas of this stuff than I am. Maybe all of them. So this is just really important that we support each other. Do not hold back because you don't think you have a right to contribute the data. Everything that isn't fat, protein, ash, and water is carbs. Yeah, what guys, go for it. Chat it up. I am not going to be offended. As long as you're being nice to each other, we are going to have a synergy working together and bringing our knowledge complementary to this whole conversation, okay? And I want you to be excited about this because you have support. I want you to take action because you don't feel that you're alone. Does that make sense? Like, you're going to probably do something with this knowledge if you see that there are others who are working at it and have had positive experiences and results as well. A lot of the people who are commenting feed raw or some version of fresh or raw food because they've already been looking at this for a while. And Wendy's all the way in Australia, so working in the pet food realm and helping with formulating. So I know she's a valuable resource to help us out. In any event, I think Nature's Pharmacy does a pretty good job with their probiotics and their enzyme supplements, and they're easy to get. There's a Coastal, there are Nature's Pharmacy West and Nature's Pharmacy East. But this product, RX Vitamins, is something that my holistic veterinarian prescribes and recommends. It's also available on Amazon. Okay, so found that out. It's cheaper there too. And those would be great automatic options for you to start out with, even if you change nothing. Start adding probiotics, start adding digestive enzymes to your dog's diet. See what that does for coat and stool. Watch the poop. The poop tells you so much. All right. I think these are all the things that I really didn't want to miss today, to just put a bug in your ear and have an understanding of. Forgive me if I got it wrong. It's part of the processing, Dolores, of the food that's a natural, unavoidable byproduct of the food cooking process. That is how I understand it. All right. So thanks, you guys, and we can always come back together. Carmen started raw when we met. Yeah, it's awesome. And the other thing too, just to come back to that, is Lola still has needed adjustments and supplementation and support along the way, right? Because she went through a bout, as she kind of aged a couple years since we met, where she was having some issues with her feet. I don't remember exactly how that all went down, but this is how I approach feeding, is the same way as what Carmen had to do with her dog. It's like, go back in and take a look at, why is my dog struggling with the skin irritation now? What am I doing that maybe needs to be adjusted? I think she ended up getting supplementation, maybe a vitamin D shot or something, if I recall correctly. There can be consequences that show up way down the line from the years that dog lived on a diet that wasn't appropriate for it. So you need to be open to the fact that you start down a path doing the best you can, but you watch your dog, right? Watch that weight. If the dog gains too much weight, then you probably need to do something different with exercise and food intake, and a weight management food is not that solution. It's another kibble that just has a different type of filler that's going to potentially have different consequences to it. So I would rather see that dog have kibble removed from the bowl and fresh, protein, straight protein added in. And then we really look at, are we not digesting and absorbing the way that we need to? Does the dog need the enzyme supplementation, the probiotic supplementation? Are our hormones out of balance? Is our thyroid out of whack? Really ask these questions, guys. Don't just go to a hydrolyzed diet for skin problems, or a senior dog diet because the dog is 10, or a weight management diet because they're looking too chubby. There's a reason the body isn't performing optimally and managing itself the way that it should. Question that at the core. Does that make sense? Hope so. Okay, I'm gonna wrap it here. Thanks a million for hanging out and for all your contributions. By all means, if you're watching back the live, please don't hesitate to ask more questions or comment here. If you're watching this on a replay on one of our other platforms, feel free to shoot us an email. Cameron@hopetocanine.com will get your question to me so I can bring it up on a Fix It Friday or support with other content. And I just really want to get the wheels turning for you guys to support you in understanding why, when you ask me to recommend a kibble, I will not tell you a specific bag or brand. I will give you everything that I can to come to this data and understand for yourselves why it's a tricky thing to make the choice. And you can only do the best you can do with the knowledge that you have, and take the time to really look around and assess those ingredient lists and learn about the salt divide and pay attention to the sugar content. And even so, once you settle on something that works for you, when that kibble has to be a part of the diet or the base of the diet, add in that fresh food. Make sure you supplement. You've got to supplement kibble. Okay? Cool. Thanks, guys. And I will look forward to talking to you again before too long. Take good care. And let's see if I can wrap this up without making a mistake. Okay, bye.